Oh, I know that sound. It's time for the Beer and News Report. Hi, and welcome to the Beer and News Report. Cheers. Today, I'm drinking Benedictiner Hell. It's a lager beer from Germany, and my friend Steve recommended it. He's been a subscriber from the beginning, and we play a video game called Rock Band together, along with other board games. Anyway, he knows what I like, and he hit the nail on the head with this beer. It's nice, light-colored beer that goes down smooth with no aftertaste. It's perfect for a long night of playing drums or bass guitar. Well, you know, the computer versions. Yeah, cheers. The reason I'm drinking a cold beer is because today's topic is something very hot. Data centers. Okay, not hot like a summer day. Hot like a giant warehouse full of computers that use enough electricity to power a small city. You probably heard someone say, I store my pictures in the cloud, or my Google Docs are in the cloud. Well, they're not actually floating in a fluffy white cloud above your head, which is disappointing. When I heard of cloud computing, I pictured a bunch of nerds floating around in clouds with laptops. Turns out it's mostly warehouses with power lines, cooling systems, and very, very large electric bills. These clouds are data centers. Okay, well, what's a data center? Do I want one in my city? And are they hiring? Because frankly, I could use some work. Well, that's the subject of today's show. This show is probably reaching you through a data center. Oh my God, where's my beer? Yeah, cheers. The internet lives in a giant warehouse packed with computers. Thousands and thousands of computers. Some of the buildings are so large they could fit multiple football fields inside them. And here's something most people don't realize. There are now two different kinds of data centers. Okay, the first type is the traditional, I'm going to call it traditional or normal data center. And these are the ones that handle everyday computing tasks, like online banking, credit card transactions, paying bills, streaming Netflix, shopping on Amazon, sending emails, and looking at cat videos till 2 a.m. in the morning. These data centers are mostly powered by CPUs, or central processing units. And think of a CPU as a smart office worker. It handles lots of different jobs and makes decisions quickly. For decades, CPUs were the kings of computing. Every time you checked your bank balance, watched YouTube, or paid your electric bill, chances are a CPU is doing the work. All right, I've done that. Cheers. But now we have a second kind of data center, the AI data centers. These are built for artificial intelligence systems like ChatGPT, image generators, self-driving cars, and large language models. Instead of using CPUs, these facilities are packed with GPUs. The GPU stands for Graphics Processing Unit. Originally, GPUs were designed to help gamers blow up aliens and drive race cars at 200 miles per hour. And then somebody realized, hey, they're incredibly good at artificial intelligence. A CPU is like one very smart worker. A GPU is like thousands of workers doing small jobs simultaneously. And that's called parallel processing. And AI absolutely loves parallel processing. Okay, well, that doesn't sound too bad, right? What's the big deal? Cheers. Here's where things get interesting. AI data centers consume far more electricity than traditional data centers. A lot more. When you stream a movie, the computer mostly sends you data that already exists. When you ask an AI question, it does millions or even billions of calculations that may happen in real time to generate an answer. Every prompt requires enormous mathematical processing. And all these GPUs need electricity. And then they need cooling. And the cooling system needs electricity, which means electricity is used to remove the heat created by the electricity, which also requires electricity. Yeah, confusing, right? Okay, let me put it in terms you'll understand. It's almost like buying a beer to cool down after you mowed your lawn and then buying another beer because the first beer made you thirsty. Well, gee whiz, that happens all the time. Yeah, it does. Cheers. So what are we talking about here? All companies use a lot of electricity and water, so how different are data centers? Like I said, data centers run on GPUs. A modern high-end GPU can cost around $30,000 and use as much electricity as a mini fridge. Well, Mini fridge doesn't sound that bad. True, true. But data centers have 100,000 GPUs. And that's just one data center. San Jose wants to build 12, of which 2 are up and running. And San Jose resides in Santa Clara County, and the county wants to build 38 data centers. And that includes the 12 from San Jose. So now we're talking about the electrical equivalent of millions of mini fridges being added to the grid. But it gets worse. Yeah, we better have a drink. Cheers. An AI data center runs 24/7, 365 days a year. It is never off. Well, if the company wants to stay in business, it better not go off. A typical GPU will run at about 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. But they discovered that running a GPU that hot, it diminishes the life of the GPU. So they want to cool it because at $30,000 each, you want that GPU to last a long time. So they cool it with water, lots and lots of water. How much? Some large AI data centers can use hundreds of thousands or even millions of gallons of water per day for cooling. That's enough water to fill several backyard swimming pools every single day. Naturally, people ask, well, why can't they recycle the water? Well, the answer is yes, they do, but the process of cooling down the water, they use evaporators, and this releases a lot of water into the atmosphere. So when the water drops to about 20% of what they had, they end up getting what this stuff called gray sludge. Now, what is gray sludge? Well, time out. Sit down, have a drink, because you're not going to like it. Cheers. When you take water from your tap, there's chemicals in it. You know, one is usually fluoride, right? There's other chemicals too that coat the pipes, and it provides like a sealant so that the pipes don't contaminate the water. So if you start with 5 million gallons of water and you evaporate all but 20%, you're down to 1 million gallons of water. And all those chemicals become concentrated, and that's how you get gray sludge. So what do the data centers do with this? What can they do? They flush it down the drainage pipes, it goes back to the city water processing plant, and they let them worry about it. But the problem is, this is a new phenomenon, and city water systems aren't equipped to handle this, not at the volumes that they're sending. So this puts a massive strain on their systems. So they have to charge extra fees back to the city, and the city uses our taxpayer money to pay these extra fees. And then, of course, the data centers need to pump 5 more million gallons back in because all the water's gone. They have to keep the systems cool. I told you weren't going to like it. Cheers. So why do cities want AI data centers? Because businesses provide more tax dollars than homes. Businesses provide jobs, jobs provide money, and money means spending, and spending means sales tax. And what city doesn't need more tax money? So that is why cities are trying to cram as many data centers in as possible. Plus, the growth rate of AI is huge. They can't build data centers fast enough, but this fast growth brings another problem. I mean, why wouldn't it? Everything else causes a problem. What's this one? Yeah, cheers. This chart is the projection of the Bay Area's energy needs. In 2025, the energy usage is 413 megawatts. The projected in 2039 is 4,280 megawatts, or 4.28 gigawatts. And this is a tenfold increase in the amount of power currently being generated. So where are we going to get this power? Microsoft has an idea. They're in negotiations to refurbish the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant for its Odin data center. If you wanted to build a new nuclear power plant, that could take anywhere from 7 to 10 years, depending on how restrictive your state is. Let's think about it. California, it's going to take 10 years. Okay, well, what about coal? President Trump is always touting coal as the future energy source. Well, to build a coal power plant takes about 2 to 5 years. And let's face it, California is never going to allow a coal power plant. Okay, then, let's go with natural gas. Well, that shrinks it down to about 2 to 3 years. I mean, that's not too bad, but do we have any other options? Well, there's wind power, and that takes about 6 months to build. A 10 megawatt power plant would take about 2 months, and a 50 megawatt power plant would take 6 months. Okay? So, of course, your data center needs to be near or at a windy place. Now, what about solar? Well, that could take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, and there would have to be a battery storage plant combined with it, as it needs to be power at night. So basically, the power generated from the solar power plant would have to be twice as much as the data center uses to ensure a constant power source. I think you can already see that a combination of different types of power plants will need to be built. I guess Diversegy does, make things better. Yeah, cheers. Of course, the quickest way to get power is with a diesel generator. And for example, this is our diesel generator at our hunting camp. It's small, way smaller than what the data centers use, but just to let you know, they're out there. And data centers know this, and they install them regularly. This is a chart of diesel generators in Virginia, which has the largest data center market. You can see the sales of diesel generators is skyrocketing. And if you count them all up, there's over 10,000 generators in that state alone. I mean, that's a lot of diesel. And you're probably wondering, what does Tier 2 and Tier 2 plus SCR and Tier 4 mean? Well, Tier 2 is your standard diesel generator with minimum filtering. It produces 85% more higher emissions than a Tier 4 generator. Now, the Tier 2 with the SCR is their Tier 2 generator, like we just talked about, with selective catalytic reduction on it. You can think about this as a catalytic converter that your car has. It's pretty much the same concept. Tier 4 is the cleanest diesel generator that's currently possible. And you can see from this chart, they're starting to get popular. They're getting popular because people near these data centers are complaining about all the diesel pollution. Yeah, I've driven behind a diesel truck. It's not fun. Cheers. Now, there are other ways to get power for your data center, and one is Bloom Energy. Bloom Energy leverages natural gas and other fuels to create electricity through chemical reactions without combustion and builds decentralized energy systems that produce electricity. Since there's no combustion, there's no smoke. With natural gas, there is a carbon dioxide byproduct, but the emissions are low when you compare it to other generators. And if you use pure hydrogen, the byproduct is water. And you can see from this chart that the Bloom Energy is way better than using diesel, but it's more expensive. And as you can see from Bloom Energy stock chart, data centers are buying their generators like crazy. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting you go out and buy this stock. Its PE is through the roof, and there's no guarantee that this will continue. I'm simply pointing out that data centers are creating enormous demand for alternative power technologies. Yeah, cheers. Well, as you can see, my beer is almost empty, and that means we're at the end of the show. I drank this way too fast. The last three were just sips because this beer goes down so good. Okay, anyways, the next time somebody tells you their photos are stored in the cloud, remember, the cloud isn't floating over your head. It's sitting in a giant warehouse full of computers, power cables, cooling systems, and enough wiring to make an electrician cry. Thanks to artificial intelligence, those warehouses are going to get bigger every year. Well, that's another opportunity or a giant future headache. Well, that's a debate for another beer. Yeah. Thanks for watching my show. If you want to contact me, you can reach me at this email address. I hope you like it, and click that like button and a little bell icon next to it, and that'll ping you when I put out a new show. Okay? Till then, keep your beer cold and your interest hot. Cheers.